Shifting our focus to the Russia-Ukraine war now. Russia says that there has been another attack on Moscow. In the early hours of dawn, 2 Ukrainian drones took aim at the Russian capital. They were intercepted by special forces and ended up crashing 2 non-residential buildings. Look at the visuals. The buildings suffered some damage. Construction material was strewn around, especially near the Russian Defense Ministry's building. There were no casualties, but residents reported hearing a loud bang. Listen in.
I was asleep and was woken up by an explosion. Everything started to shake. It felt like the whole building had come down. I looked out of the window. I live on the side where there's less damage, and it felt strange. The damage was so minor. Well, okay, not minor. Any explosion is scary.
For months now, we have been talking about Ukraine's counter-offensive. But seeing attacks on the Russian capital on territory well beyond the Russian border, can it even be called a counter-offensive? It looks like an offensive and not a counter-offensive. You see, Ukrainian drones also attacked an ammunition depot in Crimea. Russia says it shot down or electronically jammed 11 drones over the area. A residential building also came under fire. It was a second such attack in Crimea in the last 3 days. 2 days ago, another drone caused an explosion at an ammunition depot in central Crimea. Ukraine took accountability for that one. The Ukrainian army said that it had destroyed an oil depot and Russian army warehouses. Ever since Russia pulled out of the grain deal, Crimea has come under heavy attacks. 2 days ago, a Russian journalist was killed near the front line in Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region. His name was Rostislav Zuralev. He was a war correspondent for a Russian news agency. 3 others were injured in the same artillery attack. Now, Russia claims that Ukraine used America's cluster munitions in the attack. You see, Ukraine received cluster bombs from the United States this month. These bombs contain dozens of small bomblets that range shrapnel over a wide area. They are highly dangerous to civilians, and in fact, Ukraine pledged to use them only to dislodge enemy soldiers so that their use would be limited to the battlefield. But can we really take Ukraine's word for it, especially after the drone strikes in Moscow? In response, Russia has destroyed Ukrainian grain warehouses on the Danube River. Last week, there was a bloodbath in Odessa. Attacks mostly struck the seaports. But today's pre-dawn strikes hit infrastructure along the Danube, a vital export route for Ukraine. Its importance has only grown since Russia pulled the plug on the grain deal. So I ask again, what is Ukraine's plan exactly? At this point, I want to ask, is there even a plan in place? Or is Ukraine simply winging it because the war seems to be going nowhere? What is happening on the borders? Ukraine was supposed to dislodge Russian forces and reclaim its territory. What is happening on the front lines? Ukraine says in the past week its military has retaken more than 12 square kilometers of territory in the south. The defense minister says Ukrainian forces were continuing to advance towards Melitopol and Berdyansk, which is on the Azov Sea. What about Bakhmut, Donbass, Kherson? Ukraine claims it has retaken about 4 square kilometers in the direction of Bakhmut. But just look at the rate at which Ukraine is burning weapons. Is a progress of a few square kilometers justified? The truth is, Russia still holds swathes of territory in southern and eastern Ukraine, and Ukraine is progressing at snail's pace. The army faces extremely complex minefields, anti-tank barriers, and systems of fire destruction on the front lines. Quite literally, Ukraine has a lot of ground to cover, but its war fatigue is on display. So what is Ukraine's game plan exactly? If this is its counter-offensive, then it's a rather embarrassing one.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.